Dear students, welcome to lecture number 6 of Managerial Economics. We will discuss today demand estimation. I am Dr. Jangres Khan with you for this lecture. In this lecture today, we will discuss the following topics. The main theme of this lecture is to discuss the market research approaches to the demand estimation, in which we will discuss the consumer surveys, the observational research, consumer clinics, and the market experiments. So coming to the market research approaches to demand estimation, if you remember, we discussed these concepts in our previous lectures. We discussed the concept of demand in detail. You know that what is demand? Demand is a desire backed by ability and willingness to pay for a product at a particular price per unit time. So we can say that there are few concepts which are necessary for a complete definition of the demand. No doubt, demand is a desire, but this desire should be backed by ability and willingness to pay. Means for the demand, ability and willingness to pay are necessary. Similarly, demand is always made at a particular unit of time at a particular price. Means the demand is per day, per week, monthly, quarterly, annual demand, and it is always at a particular price. If you talk about the petrol, we talk about per liter. If we talk about the milk, we say per liter. If we talk about the some other like potatoes, like vegetables, we say per kg. So after defining the demand, recall your memory, we discussed the law of demand, which state that other things remaining same, the price and quantity are inversely related. Means if other things remaining same, if certain assumptions are fulfilled, then when the price rises, the demand falls, and when price falls, the demand rises. But we further discuss the determinants of demand, which shows that, as discussed in the law of demand, a price is not the only determinant of demand. There are other determinants of demand as well, like the consumer income, like the prices of the related goods, like the weather conditions, and so many other determinants. The next topic we discussed in our previous lecture, that was elasticity of demand and its measurement. The elasticity of demand is the ratio of percentage change in quantity demanded to percentage change in price. We discussed earlier that the law of demand shows the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. It says that when the price rises, demand will fall. When the price falls, demand will rise. But it doesn't quantify the relationship. It doesn't show how much change in demand price brings about how much change in price. So this is done by the elasticity of demand. We discussed that we know that there are different types of the elasticity of demand, like the price elasticity of demand, the income elasticity of demand, and the cross elasticity of demand, which have been discussed in the previous lectures in detail. So, dear student, question arises in mind looking at the concept of demand. After discussing the law of demand, the concept of demand, like the elasticity of demand, certain question arises like how much will the revenue of the firm change after increasing the price of a commodity? How much will the quantity demanded of a commodity increase if the consumer income increases? What if the price of if the competitors lower the price of substitute? Firms should know the answers to the above mentioned questions if they want to achieve the objective of maximizing their value. Dear students, the demand estimation can help us a lot in this respect. So far, the demand estimation is concerned, there are two major approaches to the demand estimation. These approaches are marketing research approach and the regression analysis approach. The marketing research approach is a qualitative type of research, and the regression analysis is quantitative type of the approach to the demand estimation. Our today's topic is the market research approach. We will discuss the regression analysis approach in the next lecture, inshallah. So, coming to the market research approach, actually the market research approach it links the consumers, the customers, and the end users to the marketer through information. This information is to identify and define marketing opportunities and problems, generate, redefine, evaluate marketing actions, monitor marketing performance, and improve the understanding of marketing as a process. It helps us in identifying the determinants of demand, the determinants of sales of a product. Researching markets helps target ideal customers, identify new market opportunities. It helps us in finding out the effect of different factors on the product a firm produces. Market research can also help you identify areas of your business that could be updated or changed. The result of marketing the result of marketing research. This is let me correct. The result of marketing research can be used for some business and sales planning, and one of them is the demand estimation. Means the demand estimation helps us in identifying the determinants of demand, similar determinants of the sales. If a firm want to bring about a change in the product, through demand estimation, it can find out the effect of that change on the sales of this firm. Suppose a firm want to change the packing of the product or increase the price, it will be automatically, it will be interested, no doubt, in finding out the effect of this change on the sales of the product. So, market research approach is used as a method of estimating demand. The most important of these market research approaches are consumer surveys, consumer clinics, market experiments, the observational research, etc. Let us explain these approaches one by one. These are consumer surveys, observational research, consumer clinics, and the market experiments. So, coming first to consumer surveys. Consumer surveys are conducted in the marketplace and in order to find out the relationship between the sales of a product and its determinants. The surveys require the questioning of a firm customer in an attempt to estimate the relationship between demand for its products and a variety of variables perceived to be for the marketing and profit planning functions. Through the consumer surveys, we try to find out whether there is any relationship between the demand of this particular product and the other variables. This is the simple, as I discussed earlier, that the consumer surveys are conducted in actual market situation. Consumer surveys involve questioning a sample of consumers about how would they respond to particular changes in the prices of commodities, income, and determinants of demand. The surveys can be conducted by simply stopping and questioning people at the shopping centers. These surveys, the consumer surveys, are conducted in the actual market situation. What the researcher do, that the researcher goes to the market and to the shopping center, to the shopping malls, stop the people and ask the questions. What are those questions? The question is, suppose I'm a researcher, I go to the market in order to find out the determinants of the effect of different variables on the sales of a product my firm is selling. So I will ask the questions, for example, are you using this product? He will say yes or no. If he is using this, then it is okay. If he says no, his data, his information will not help me. If he says yes, I will ask a question. If the price of this product changes, then will you increases? Will you still continue the use of this product? He will say yes or no. I will say, if the price of its substitute falls, are you still be using this product? If your income increases, will you still be using this product or will you go for the superior good? If the advertisement expenditure is increasing, if you see more and more publicity, you see the different signboards all over the city, if you see commercials on the television screen, or if you see its advertisements in the newspapers, will you increase its use? He will say yes, no. So in this way, I will be able to get exact information, consumer perception regarding different variables and the sale of this product directly. Such type of the surveys can be conducted by face-to-face. The example is, as I explained, on telephone, online, or through direct mail. Researcher can ask the current and prospective customers a host of questions. The questionnaire should be but care should be taken in conducting the consumer survey. The questions should be carefully constructed and should be representative of a sample of consumers. The questions should be relevant to the consumers, and it should be based on the ground realities. And I suggest that while conducting a consumer survey, these questionnaires should have a pilot test first before conducting a complete survey. The consumer product companies use such type of surveys extensively, and similarly, the companies should take care in employment while employing the interviewers. Trained people should be given the task to collect the information. Such type of surveys are important because such type of the surveys provide useful information to the researcher. The advantages of this survey, the consumer surveys, are good because they provide the only information available. This is one of the way of the direct contact with the consumers and get the consumer perception regarding the particular product. They can be made as simple as possible. The researcher can ask exactly the question they want, and it is a subtype of the feedback of consumer to the company. But there are some drawbacks of this as well, this survey. The major disadvantages of this survey are the consumers may be unable or unwilling to provide reliable answers. For example, how would your expenditure on cigarette change if its price increases? Will you reduce the consumption of beer if its price increases by 10%? If a beer producer double its advertising expenditure, or if the alcoholic content of beer was reduced by 1% percentage point, then what will be what will you demand more or the same quantity? So such type of questions are it is possible that the consumer may not be willing to give the answer of such type of the questions. In a society like ours, in Peshawar, take our own society, the ground realities. You know that smoking is considered not a good habit here. So, how will a consumer give you exact information if is he smoking more, is he chain smoker, will he increase the number of cigarettes per day if the price falls, or so not necessarily he may give you the exact answer. He may not be willing, or looking at this very low literacy rate, possibly he may be unable to give you the exact information. Similarly, many people use beer. So, but most of them will not be willing to give you the information, plus information regarding the usage of the beer. So one of the drawback, this is one of the big drawback of this consumer surveys, that the respondents may not be willing to give the information, the respondent may not be willing to share the information, or they may not be able to share the information due to lack of the knowledge. No one would like to share the information. It is similarly, it is fatigue for the customers, because most of the people they say that they have very shortage of time, they don't have enough time. It is a type of proverb nowadays that I don't have the time. So if you stop the consumer and ask them for filling the questionnaire, to help you in filling the questionnaire, it is a little bit difficult. Careful and extensive surveys can be very expensive. If the sample size is large, it is sometimes very expensive to collect such type of data. So this was something about the consumer surveys. The next method of the marketing research approach is the observational research. Due to shortcomings of the consumer surveys, many firms are replacing it with observational research. The observational research refers to gathering of information on consumer preferences by watching them buying and using products. For example, as a result of the observational research, some automakers conclude that many people think of their cars as art objects that are on display whenever they drive them. Similarly, another finding of the consumer surveys is observational research is that the consumers prefer to take several cold medicines, not just one. But for how the observational research is conducted, it relies on the product scanners, which are increasingly found in stores and on people meters in homes. These make it possible for a company to learn overnight how a wide variety of products sell and the effectiveness of commercial as well as television viewing patterns. Scanners and people meters, however, raise legal questions about the privacy. Observational research does not, however, render consumer surveys useless. The observational research is conducted through the product scanners, and the people meters, and if actually these are the intervention in the consumer privacy, so there are some legal questions regarding this. The observation research does not, however, render consumer service useless. The use of the observational research, which means to observe the customers in buying and while they are buying and selling, without informing them. So the consumer surveys are also, it doesn't mean that using the observational research method, the consumer surveys become useless. It doesn't mean. Consumer surveys are the only way to obtain information about people consumers' responses. For example, if a firm is thinking of introducing a new product or changing the quality of existing one, the only way that the firm can test consumer reactions is to directly ask them, since no other data are available. If you want to find the effect of changes on the sales of a product, the only way to contact directly consumers to get the perception of response of the consumer is the consumer surveys. So the observational research doesn't mean that the consumer surveys are useless. From the survey, the researcher can typically tries to determine the demographic characteristics, age, sex, education, income, family size of consumer which are most likely to purchase the product. The same may be true in detecting changes in consumer tastes and preferences and determining consumer expectations about future prices and business conditions. So this means that the observational research is an addition to the knowledge, getting information, but the consumer observational research doesn't mean that consumer surveys are useless. Consumer clinics. The consumer clinics are another way of the marketing research, of getting information about the product sale, the choice of the consumers, the effect of changes in the quality of the product, price of the product, and the other determinants of the product, and getting the information from the consumers. This is another way to demand estimation, and these are actually, the consumer clinics are actually conducted in a controlled environment. This is conducted in a simulated store where the consumers are given some money and they are asked to make purchases in that particular store, and they are observed. The selected consumers are observed. So another approach to demand estimation is consumer clinic. They are laboratory experiments in which the participants are given a sum of money and asked to spend it in the simulated store to see how they react to changes in commodity price, product packaging, display, prices of competing products, and other factors affecting demand. They are given money and they are asked to spend this whole money in that particular store where the commodity has been, the product has been arranged in different ways, somewhere with lower price, somewhere with different packagings, somewhere with the price of compared with the price competing products. Some were displayed in a different way, and through this observation, through this controlled environment, they are noted, their actions are noted, and the record is made. Participants in the experiment can be selected so as to closely represent the socio-economic characteristics of the market of interest. Actually, these are the most valid point, that the participants should be selected in such a way that they represent the socio-economic characteristics of the market interest. They are the representative of the consumers, not those consumers, specific consumers, which the researcher know, or the data collector, the numerator know. They should be randomly selected in such a way that they are the representative of the consumers of the society. Participants have an incentive to purchase the commodities they want the most because they are usually allowed to keep the goods purchased. They are asked, take this money, purchase these commodities, make selections from these commodities, and take away the goods. Thus, the consumer clinics are more realistic than consumer surveys because they are not just the surveys, they are actually involve practical experiments, laboratory experiments, because their cemetery store is like a laboratory where the action and the reactions of the consumers are noted. By being able to control the environment, consumer clinics also avoid the pitfall of actual market experiment, which can be ruined by the extraneous events. Consumer clinics can provide useful information about the demand for a farm product, particularly if consumer clinics are supplemented by consumer surveys. The results are questionable, but what the problem is, the results of consumer clinics are questionable because the participants know that they are in artificial situation and that they are being observed. They are not very likely to act normally as they would in a real market situation. The biggest problem with this survey is that the consumer knows that they are being noted, they are being observed, so they act artificially. They don't act normally. So this doesn't show the exact reaction of the consumers regarding the price, the packing, and the other determinants of the other variables. The sample of participants must be necessarily small because of the high cost of running the experiment. As this experiment is very expensive, because selecting a large number of the respondents means the distribution of huge amount of money. So these are not a very good method because it is very expensive. So students, let's come to the last method, the market experiments. So the market experiments are attempted by a firm to estimate the demand for a commodity by changing price and other determinants of demand for the commodity in actual marketplace. Unlike the consumer clinics, which are conducted under strict laboratory conditions, market experiments are conducted in actual marketplace. There are different ways of performing the market experiments. One method is to select several markets with similar socio-economic characteristics. Change the commodity price in some markets and stores, packaging in other markets and stores, and amount and type of promotion in still other markets or store. Record the different responses of consumers in different markets. This is market experiments are actual way of the research, and for the demand estimation, these experiments are conducted in open environment in actual marketplace instead of the consumer clinics. Because in the consumer clinics we have the artificial environment, but in the market experiments we have the actual market conditions. What is done that several markets are selected, purposely selected with similar socio-economic characteristics in order to find out the effect of different variables on the demand estimation. What the researcher do here, that they select several markets, then change the price in some markets. In some market, they change the packing of the product. If not in the market, then in some stores. And in others, they make the promotions. And the responses, the reaction, the purchases, the sale of the product in all these different market with the changing conditions is recorded. By using surveys for various markets, a firm can also determine the effect of age, let me make a correction here. So such type of the situation, such type of the experiments can also be made at different scales. The advantage of this can be conducted on a large scale to ensure the validity of the results, and consumers are not aware that they are part of the experiment, just like the consumer clinics. So they act naturally. In order to keep the cost down, market experiments are likely to be conducted on to limited scale, but over a fairly short period of time. The market experiments can be these can be conducted on a large scale, but looking at the cost, they are usually conducted on the small scale. The market experiments can be prey-off, but the problems are there that in a society like ours, we can have the problem of the strikes, problem or bad weather, or similar other uncontrolled experiments can affect the result of the market experiments. Similarly, the competitors could try to sabotage the experiment by also changing prices and other determinants of demand under their control. They could monitor the experiment and gain useful information that the firm would prefer not to disclose. Means the secrecy, the secrets of firm can be leaked out through the market, the survey. Market experiment. A firm may permanently lose customers in the process of raising prices in the market where it is experimenting with a high price. As discussed in the previous slide, that after selecting several markets, the firm may change price in some of the market. In some market, it may keep the price low, while in that it may keep the price high in order to find out the effect of this price on the sale of the product. But in the markets where it has kept its price high, it is possible that the firm may lose customers looking at the high price. Despite these shortcomings, market experiments may be very useful to a firm in determining its best pricing strategy and in testing different packaging, promotional campaigns, and the product qualities. Market experiments are particularly useful in the process of introducing a different product where no other data exists. They may also be useful in verifying the results of other statistical techniques used to estimate demand and providing some of the data required for the other statistical techniques of demand estimation. So these were the different approaches to the marketing research, and in these approaches, first of all, we conducted the consumer surveys. That was just to stop the people in the shopping malls, in the markets, and ask the questions, or to fill the questionnaire through telephone, through email, through other online surveys, in which the effect of they are asked about the different factors which can affect the sales, the responses are recorded, and demand is estimated. The following method after the consumer surveys was the observational research, in which the sales of the product, in which the behavior of the consumer are recorded through product scanners and the people meters. Consumer clinics was another way of the demand estimation, in which the demand is estimated by giving the consumers a sum of money and sending them to a simulated store where their actions and reactions regarding the packing, regarding the price, regarding the quality of the product is noted, data is recorded, and the demand is estimated. But this method is a very expensive method. The market experiment method is another method approach of the marketing research, where the consumers are where the several markets having similar socioeconomic characteristics are selected. Suppose we select the 10 markets are 8 markets, and then the prices change in 2 or 3 markets, the quality of the product is changed in 2 or 3 markets, the other market the packing is changed, and the response of the consumer is recorded. So dear student, this lecture is based on the Salvatore Book Managerial Economics in Global Economy, 5th edition 2004, and some of the web sources given these references. So this was our today's lecture. In the next lecture we will discuss the regression approach to demand estimation, inshallah.